How unusual is it to see an advert like this in a national newspaper asking people to come forward after they've experienced something like this?
Hi, Emma. I thought it was very unusual until I spoke to a lawyer earlier who said that when an estate is coming up for distribution, probate, etc., that often there are ads put into papers by the courts, so anybody with claims against the estate would come forward. So it's not as unusual as I thought it actually was.
And you, of course, deal with people who've unfortunately had experience like this in their childhood. Indeed, you went through something similar yourself. Will it work? Would you come forward in this manner? What do you think?
I think the first thing to say is that it really, as far as survivors of abuse is concerned, it's not about money. I think very few of Savile's victims will come forward, and I think
Why is that?
Well, why would you? I've spoken to a number of women who were abused by him, who were simply grateful that NAPAC was available. You know, we have a free phone helpline for survivors and a website, and they were grateful to be able to talk to somebody who understood the issues, but they didn't want to go to the authorities. They didn't want to get involved with lawyers, the police, etc. Because of course Savile is dead. They just wanted to have some acknowledgement and some support to move on with their life, and that's what NAPAC does. But as I say, for most people, it's not about money. It's about, I hate that word closure, but in a way it's about closure and moving on.
Because I suppose the problem is, as much as it would be, I'm sure, very useful to have a sum of money, whatever you've been through, you're going to have to relive all those experiences again, aren't you, in order to tell someone why you believe you deserve a claim. And is that what would be too difficult? That
would be incredibly traumatic for so many people. And indeed, money would be helpful because the cost of therapy and counselling is extremely expensive. The NHS is not geared up to support survivors.
We need to do a lot throughout your life, perhaps.
Possibly for the rest of somebody's life. But we kind of get hung up about issues around compensation whenever abuse issues are discussed. But I would be more interested in having a discussion as to, say, for example, why did Margaret Thatcher give Jimmy Savile a knighthood when the government were already alerted to how bad he was? Cyril Smith, there's a demonstration outside Parliament this Saturday at midday about Cyril Smith and what he got away with.
But back to these adverts, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Peter.
no, absolutely.
If people are reading this and thinking, I have been affected, what advice would you give them?
I would say call NAPAC. I would say call our free phone helpline. Go onto our website, napac.org.uk, and think very carefully about whether you want to put yourself through what potentially you may have to put yourself through. Having said that, it's absolutely appropriate that if people have been hurt in childhood and they are able to identify either the perpetrator, in this case it's Savile's estate, or organisations that have somehow contributed towards that abuse, and we know about some of those organisations and there are ongoing investigations with the BBC, with the NHS and so on, then it's absolutely appropriate. And of course many institutions won't react until they are hit where it hurts, and that tends to be, sadly, in the purse.